Okay, hello everybody and welcome to the 9th in CSW Group series of webinars, My Choices. This is an online program of webinars, each looking at a different aspect of careers and employability, and they're offered to young people in all educational situations, both mainstream and also those who are home educated. So today is a little bit different. We are offering a question and answer session, and we are joined by some employers and also by a training provider. So my colleague David Roe, our Partnership Delivery Manager, will be offering the question and answer session today. If anyone listening has any additional questions, then please feel free to ask any questions you have, and we can, time permitting, deal with those at the end. So without further ado, I will just introduce you to our panellists. So we are joined today by James Deacon, who is a senior geotechnical engineer with Fugro. We are also joined by Lucy Warner, who is a young workforce facilitator at the NHS. We're joined by Jess Moir, who is a training and recruitment advisor at Exeter College. And finally, we also have Thomas Thayer, who is the HPC education lead with EDF. So without further ado, I will hand you over to David.
Thanks, Ollie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining our webinar, and thanks to everyone that's joined as a panelist. So without any further ado, let's get stuck into the questions. So no particular order. Jess, we'll start with you first, if that's okay. Put you on the spot. We've had a question through, and it is, will I be able to do an apprenticeship even though I haven't got any GCSEs?
Great question. Thanks, David. Yes, absolutely, you can do an apprenticeship without any GCSEs. The minimum that we usually ask for is grade C, equivalent to 4 in English and Maths on most of our programs. But if you don't have those grades, don't worry, it's not a problem. Alongside every apprenticeship, there's an opportunity to work towards your functional skills qualification, and that's in English and Maths. This gives you a level 2 qualification, which is the equivalent to a GCSE grade C4. So functional skills are taught in a much different way to GCSEs, so they're now more accessible, understandable, and really set in a real life context and environment, so they're not nearly as scary as GCSEs. And we can also offer them in a variety of learning aspects, from virtual sessions and also anyone that needs one-to-one specific support. And then we've got a great opportunity for a pre-apprenticeship program, which is where you can join if you need additional help on any professional personal development, so CV writing, approaching employers directly. And this program's open to apprentices that might not have secured an employer just then, and is open from 6 weeks up to 12 months you can be on program. It's a really great way to build skills whilst you're learning your qualifications, setting you up to be apprenticeship ready. And so the basic message really is on that question is there's definitely no barriers towards becoming an apprentice and getting on an apprentice program.
Okay, thanks, Jess. That's really good. Just a follow up. Sorry. So with COVID, I heard that the number of apprenticeships had decreased. Is that actually the case? What's the picture like?
No, we found actually it's really been a massively busy time at the hub for us. Employers are really engaging. The government has introduced some incredible incentives, so potentially employers that haven't looked at apprentices before have actually thought, you know what, this could be a great way for me to re-recruit and, you know, start up a young person this career path. So actually it's been really exciting time for us. We were the same, a little bit concerned about what the landscape would look like, but it's been incredibly busy at the hub. So
okay, well that's really positive. Thank you for that. That's good to know. Excellent. Okay, thanks, Jess. So again, in no particular order, Tom, should we come to you? So the question that's come through is, what skills and behaviour you expect of young employees?
Okay, yeah, so good afternoon, everybody. I think that's a wonderful question. I don't think there's a textbook answer to this. Different jobs, different opportunities require different skills and behaviours. But I think on the whole, I would always say communication. So being able to communicate to people effectively and to be able to listen is really, really important, and take instruction and direction. I think having that willingness to self-improve and to learn is a very, very key skill and behaviour. To demonstrate teamwork goes without saying. Not many people work in complete isolation. So being able to demonstrate or to think about how you work with other people and how you relate to other people is really important. And I always encourage people, think about how you would build those skills. What things can you do now to develop those skills to make you really employable in the future, or make your application stand out when you apply for an opportunity. So things like Duke of Edinburgh, National Citizen Service, opportunities to volunteer within your community. And obviously that looks very different right now, but they're great ways that you can develop your skills. And also think about work experience. So a lot of companies, a lot of organizations are now offering virtual work experience and work insights. So I strongly recommend people look out for those opportunities. We've got one actually that's coming up in October. And then a lot of employers and colleges and training providers also have really useful links to how you can build those skills and those behaviours. So for example, for us, if people go to edfenergy.com/younghpc, we've got some toolkits, some toolboxes on there, which will help you develop those behaviours and skills to make you as employable as possible. So there we are.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Tom. And just to follow up on that, do you think COVID has changed the type of skills in some way that people might need in employment? I'm thinking like working online, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. I think probably, your digital skills are important now, to be able to virtually connect with people. Yeah, so I would say that's been the biggest change, and probably being able to demonstrate resilience, because it's not the easiest if you're having to work from home and you can't go into an office. So your ability to reach out and communicate to people is really important, and find clever ways to stay engaged, and if you lead a team, to motivate a team, remotely.
Yeah. Absolutely. I don't know how you guys feel, but working from home has its plus and minuses, shall we say?
Yeah, it certainly does.
Yeah. I was just going to say we've done some interviews recently, and they've all been online. And I think there was a difference between some people that had prepared and were able to use the technology to get their presentation up on screen, and those that didn't. So it's about kind of maybe practicing those skills if you're going to do some online interviews, which in this in the COVID world is probably quite likely. So, cool, brilliant. Anyway, thanks, Tom. That's brilliant. Okay, let's go on to Lucy. Lucy, so question for you: how do employers view a lack of qualifications?
So within the NHS, there are 350 different career pathways, so different types of jobs. Some of those do obviously require qualifications, certainly sort of like qualified nurses, doctors, physiotherapists. I think if you're being treated by somebody, you'd want them to be qualified. But there are lots of different pathways to getting to those qualified positions. So we offer apprenticeships, and Jess very kindly has introduced that we do the functional skills. So if somebody does come along and they haven't got their maths and English, which is a requirement, then we would take them through their functional skills. So it isn't necessary that people have qualifications. Certainly in the NHS, there's lots of other softer skills that are really, really important. You know, probably compassion being a huge one there. And I deal a lot with sort of schools work experience, college work experience, that sort of thing, and come across lots of different young people. And with some of them, you can see they've got that care and compassion within them as a natural feature. Straight away, they can walk up to somebody and speak to them, you know, at a bedside or maybe in a care home or something like that. It's not something that everybody possesses, but you don't necessarily have to be academically bright to have that care and compassion within you. Something that can be taught, but it's, if you've got it within you, it's obviously going to elude out, you know, far more naturally. So not having qualifications certainly is no barrier to coming into the NHS.
Okay, brilliant, thank you. And I would agree, again, interviewing sort of fairly recently, and yeah, one of the things that we're looking for is that passion and enthusiasm for the work, and that really makes the candidate stand out. So if you've got that, it's you know, it's a really good thing. And I'm just interested, you're a young workforce facilitator. Can you just give us a quick overview of what your job involves?
Yeah, so like many jobs in the NHS, it does evolve and change over time. But I run a work experience week for year 10 students, try and give them sort of like an application, an interview process, and then they can come to the hospital, you know, for a week, sort of all together. So all schools across North Devon. But also I run programs for college students who are doing health and social care. We also have a program that's for those wanting to go on to medical school and be doctors, and they come along and one day a week and shadow different people across, you know, hospital, or also with the health and social care students and sixth forms who are interested in getting into the NHS. They also go to external venues, so like a care home, the hospice, you know, because it isn't all just hospital. That people get qualified into.
Okay, interesting. Thank you, that's great. Okay, James, last but not least, we'll come to you. So the question we've got here is, I've never had any work experience. What can I do to help myself get a job?
Thank you. Good afternoon. So, well, the obvious one is to try and find some work experience. I would say don't get too hung up on getting work experience in the area, the industry that you are looking to go into. It might not always be possible, and a lot of skills are transferable. So, you know, you might get a job somewhere else, but more than you think will be transferable into the industry you want to go into. I mean, my experience before I went into engineering was not engineering; it was bar work and courier driver work. But that taught me a lot, you know, a lot of transferable skills, people skills, like Thomas was saying. You know, don't be put off by the fact that you might not be able to get work experience at the company you want to end up working for. An employer will sort of look at your work experience and see that you've put yourself out there, you've made yourself available, and that you've got the drives to sort of try anything really. And that's more valuable, I would say, as an employer, than waiting and trying to get a really specific bit of work experience. A lot of companies will be open to it, and it may seem daunting, but drop them an email, pick up the phone and just sort of ask. You'll probably be surprised how many will say, yeah, okay, you know, come in for a week and you can have a chat. Or, you know, as Thomas said, there's a lot of companies have a day in the life of you know, a member of staff, and you can read those and you can do your research, and that in itself is experience and knowledge on the company or the industry you want to go into. So.
Brilliant. So you're kind of saying, I think, that basically any work experience is actually really valuable, even if it isn't related to the job you want to do in the future. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you can get work experience related to the industry or the jobs you want to go into, then that's great. I mean, you know, that obviously that will help. Might be a benefit, but if you can't get that, don't be, you know, disheartened. Don't be put off. You know, there will be some skills that you can bring over from other work experience. People who you end up working with wouldn't necessarily had. You know, would add that diversity to the team that you end up in, which will be beneficial and valuable to the company going forward. So.
Yeah, and I guess thinking about, Tom, the skills you were saying about, team working and communication, in theory you can learn those skills anyway. It doesn't have to be in the actual job that you're
yeah, I completely agree with James. It doesn't necessarily have to be linked to your chosen career. It can all be transferable. It might help inform your choice that that's what you want to go on to do in your chosen career. What I would encourage everybody to do is, even if you have applied to do a work experience and it's not been successful, make sure you put that down on an application. Make sure you talk about that at interview, because it shows that you are willing to try. Work experience places are limited. Some organisations can't even offer it. So for us at Hinkley Point C, a nuclear licensed site delivering a meaningful work experience is really, really challenging and really tough. So we haven't done it for pre-16s. But in saying that, we now have virtual work experience and opportunities as well. So hopefully this digital, not revolution, but this digital change that we've experienced because of COVID might actually increase the numbers of opportunities for young people to get that hands-on insight experience with an employer.
Yeah, absolutely. Jess, Lucy, I don't know if you've got anything to add on that.
Sorry, I've got intermittent hearing on your feeding coming through. Would you mind saying that again?
Yeah, I was just wondering if there were any more kind of follow-up points from what James and Tom has said.
I just think it's a really exciting time at the minute I'm working with a talent pool of apprentices at the minute that are really driven in the direction that they want to go. And I think it's just given them some of this changing landscape, has given them the time to reflect on how they want to get there. And as you say, with work experience, they won't necessarily narrow down what that looks like, and they're experiencing different environments. So I've said, even if it is in the financial sector, still go in to use some of that work experience that you've had from in a bar or working in a recruitment environment, or don't be afraid, as he said, to put that on your CV. So yeah, and
I think it's just as valuable to know what you don't want to do as what you do want to do. You can narrow
absolutely, yeah, definitely.
I wouldn't like to work outside in all weathers, so I know that an office job is probably more suited to me.
Exactly.
Brilliant, thank you. Lucy, I don't know, did you have anything to add?
If I could just add, I think we're probably all coming from very different parts of industry, but actually all looking for very similar things. So the individuals out there who are looking to start a career, need to sort of be thinking about what they want to do and what suits them, because actually the employer is going to be looking for all very similar things. A couple of us have said that qualifications aren't a barrier, but it's having the right person for those tasks. So I think it's also the work experience, ruling out what you don't want to do, but also going into interviews. Is that the right environment for you to go and work in, and is that the right employer for you? Not just, I've got an interview, I've got to take that job, if they offer it to me, because you spend a lot of time at work, isn't it? So you always want to be doing something you really enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. Brilliant, thank you for that. That's great. Jess, one question that's come in is, if I go to college, what will it be like? I don't know if you can answer that one for us.
I can, yes. So I am in the hub, on the apprenticeship hub, just opposite Central Station at the minute. Students have come back. In fact, I welcomed back a cohort this morning. We're still actively encouraging students to come back to college and welcome them, to be honest, with open arms, because it's lovely to see faces again. But there are clear restrictions in place and social distancing in classes and in the corridors. The moment they step onto campus, they will be fully masked and checked. and then they'll go into a teaching hub where they'll be in a bubble there. But we're open for any inquiries on that, but we're definitely actively encourage students to come back, but we've got the clear measures in place to make sure everyone's safe and comfortable with what they're doing, and even with local transport and things, to make sure they're comfortable doing all that and they're being safe and appropriate with that.
Yeah, fantastic. That's good to know. Thanks, Jess. And I think we've got time for one more question. I'll just throw this open to everyone. With COVID, we heard about apprenticeships, and actually the picture's looking better than maybe we thought, but jobs in general have, are there less jobs, more jobs out there? What's the view from the panel? Who wants to go first?
I can say, I think, it all depends on what sector and what industry. So, we know that obviously the hospitality industry has taken a big hit and probably will continue to do so, as well as retail. But other industries, so for example, I can only really talk about my context and the industry that I'm in, but we're building a nuclear power station and we need hundreds of people to build that power station. So for us, there's still a lot of opportunity directly down here in the southwest with the Hinkley Point C power station, but then it's the first power station of a generation. So hopefully, fingers crossed, there will be one being built in Sizewell and then Bradwell. So actually, in terms of that sector, in terms of construction for us, there's a lot of opportunity now and in the future to have that really sort of sustainable career path. So I think there's lots of variables. So I would just proactively encourage people to look out for opportunities, be that an apprenticeship, be that a higher level degree apprenticeship, or other entry routes into different organisations. And just be confident that there are going to be opportunities. So don't worry too much, but you just need to be proactive. You need to research and look for what's out there. So, we've got lots of supporting information, lots of opportunities for people. If you go to edfenergy.com, and we've got a young HPC program, for example, that can help you make an informed choice and find out about what opportunities are available at Hinkley Point C.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, Tom. That's great. Anyone else want to come in on that question?
Yeah, I just to back up Thomas there. Really, with construction, so obviously I feed into the construction sector. With Fugro, and that is still very, very good. And looking forward, it's going to kind of pick up. A lot of the contractors and stuff are busy and their books are getting full into next year. So we obviously got High Speed 2 being built. Early next year, the northern sections, North Birmingham, are going to go out for tender. So all of that is going to pick up over the next 2 to 3 years. And then the government has said they want to build back green, so offshore wind farms and tidal power supplies and things like that are all going to potentially be on the cards. And there's a Swansea tidal lagoon that's been on and off the table. There's the Severn Barrier that's been on and off the table. So, there's plenty of construction work, certainly, ahead. But then linked to that, there's the maintenance that goes with these construction projects. It's not just for building them. So, an electrical railway line that goes from London to Birmingham, that's a lot of electrics, it's a lot of cable, it's a lot of maintenance that's going to be required. Likewise with the wind turbines, there's a lot of moving parts in the wind turbine and they get serviced almost daily. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a construction industry role. There's the post-construction maintenance and asset management that goes with it. So.
Okay, brilliant. Thanks, James. That's good to hear. Lucy, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, so in the NHS, I work for Northern Devon Healthcare Trust, so up in North Devon. And yes, obviously it's been sort of business as usual for a lot of people. For me, it has meant, working now from home, but certainly recruitment hasn't stopped at all. Our apprenticeship program that was running, their teaching did only stop for a very short amount of time. So these are people that are employed by the trust and then have 20% of their time as teaching, but that's all carried on. And there's lots out there that lots of areas that are still recruiting. So we have 2 websites I would like to sort of say maybe to go to. So there's NHS Careers. You can actually do a personality test on there, and it tells you what might be the most appropriate job for you.
Okay.
But if somebody was looking for jobs that were advertised, you can go on to nhsjobs.co.uk and then narrow down your search to, I guess, you're Exeter based, but to the area that you're based in. And certainly I know that there's lots of vacancies for North Devon at the moment, and I would imagine that's mirrored in other trusts across the country.
Okay, excellent, thank you. And finally, Jess, anything to add before we wrap up?
I think it was just to echo what Lucy was saying about what's lovely to see is delivery for apprenticeships has continued throughout the slight unknown, and and it's allowed us to look at different ways of delivering apprenticeships. But good news, seeing faces on campus now, but we also know if we had to change delivery, that would still, it's a slightly different college experience, but their apprenticeship journey can continue. So there has been some really good things that have come out of it.
Brilliant, good stuff, thank you. Well, right, it's 24 minutes past 2, so we've yes, that's really good. That went really quickly. Thank you so much for your time and your input. It's really valuable. Hopefully everyone watching has found it valuable as well. And yeah, thanks very much. Have a nice weekend.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much, everybody. And
have a nice weekend.
Have a nice weekend too. Thank you. And if anybody listening would like to attend our next webinar, that will be on Monday, the 28th of September at 2 o'clock PM. And it will be a session entitled All About Me, My Skills and Personal Qualities. So thanks once more to all of our panelists, and thank you all for attending.